The galaxy had never known a species like humans. Across the stars, mighty alien civilizations flourished, their technology surpassing anything seen before. Yet, all of them, in one way or another, had heard the same unsettling news. Earth, a small and seemingly insignificant planet, was home to a species that had already begun to stir the galaxy with their unexpected strength. In a dimly lit war room aboard an alien flagship, the leaders of the most powerful species in the galaxy gathered. They had received a message, an encrypted transmission from the humans, a warning. The room was filled with murmurs and looks of disbelief. At the head of the table stood the Zorath, a towering alien with shimmering blue skin and glowing yellow eyes. He was the supreme commander of the Galactic Empire, one of the most feared civilizations in the universe. His species was known for their technological superiority, their ability to manipulate time and space, and their ruthless conquests of entire star systems. "You all heard the message," Zorath said, his deep voice cutting through the room. "The humans are calling us to challenge them. They claim that we, with all our power, are no match for their ingenuity. They say that Earth is not what it seems." The other alien leaders chuckled, their voices echoing through the room. "Let them try," one of them said, his reptilian tail flicking in amusement. "The humans are barely a threat. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships nothing more than scrap metal." Another leader, a high-ranking member of the Takari species, a race known for their advanced biological enhancements, laughed. "Humans have nothing on us. We have wiped out entire species without breaking a sweat. This is nothing more than an attempt at diplomacy by the desperate." Zorath's piercing eyes glinted. "You may be right, but we cannot ignore this warning. What if they have something we don't understand?" The room fell silent. The idea that humans could possess an advantage that the Galactic Empire could not anticipate was unsettling. "I suggest we send a fleet to Earth," Zorath continued. "We will teach them a lesson they'll never forget." The other leaders nodded in agreement. Within hours, the largest fleet in the galaxy was ready to embark on a mission to Earth. The aliens believed it would be a simple task. They would arrive, wipe out the human forces, and return to their respective star systems with another conquest to boast about. The humans, after all, had no place among the stars. At least, that was what they thought. As the fleet set course for Earth, Zorath's mind wandered. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something different about this species. They were resourceful, and their resilience had already been tested in the fires of war and survival. What if the humans had evolved into something more dangerous than they appeared? On Earth, the humans were well aware of the impending threat. For months, they had been watching the stars, waiting for the aliens to make their move. But humanity had always been a species of preparation, of survival against impossible odds. They had survived on a planet full of danger, from wild animals to environmental catastrophes. And they were about to prove to the galaxy that survival wasn't just about living. It was about adapting and fighting back. The first sign that the humans had prepared came when a single human craft appeared on the radar of the alien flagship. It was small, barely noticeable among the fleet of enormous warships. The aliens laughed, assuming it was some sort of decoy or simple reconnaissance ship. Zorath's voice boomed across the communication system. "Send a scout to investigate. I want to know what this is before we engage Earth's defenses." A small shuttle detached from the flagship and sped toward the human vessel. As it approached, the alien scout vessel opened a communication channel. "Human vessel, identify yourself. You are in violation of intergalactic law. Surrender immediately." The human vessel remained silent for a moment before a message crackled through the static. "This is Commander Riley of Earth. I come to deliver a message. You are not welcome here. Leave now, or face the consequences." Zorath stared at the screen, incredulous. "What? A single human ship? How dare they?" The scout ship, ignoring the warning, moved closer to the human vessel. Just then, without warning, a powerful blast erupted from the human ship. The alien scout ship was immediately disabled, its systems overloaded by a massive EMP burst. The entire fleet fell silent, shocked by what had just happened. Zorath's eyes widened. "What was that?" "An EMP," one of his officers said, looking stunned. But how? Humans don't have the technology to make such a weapon. Zorath stood, his thoughts racing. This is no ordinary species. They have already prepared for our arrival. The humans had made their first move, and it was a bold one. The alien fleet was not prepared for the kind of warfare that humans had developed, a mix of clever tactics, raw ingenuity, and sheer will to survive. This small act of defiance was only the beginning. As the alien commanders scrambled to make sense of the human response, a single human message was broadcast to the entire fleet. You came to conquer. But now, you will learn what happens when you challenge humanity. The transmission ended. The aliens were left in stunned silence. They had come to Earth with an assumption that humanity was a weak, vulnerable species. But the message they received was clear. Humans would not be easily defeated, and with that, the humans' fight for survival had begun. The silence on the alien flagship was deafening. The alien commanders stared at their screens, struggling to understand what had just happened. The sudden EMP blast had knocked out their systems, and their scout ship was disabled in an instant. They had underestimated the humans, and now it was clear that Earth's inhabitants were far more capable than they had assumed. Zorath paced back and forth in his command center. His long claws clicked against the cold metal floor as he thought. This was no accident. Someone on that human ship knew exactly what they were doing. His eyes narrowed, and he turned to his second-in-command, Kral, a fierce alien with sharp, angular features. How could they have prepared a weapon like that? Humans don't have the technology we possess. Kral, equally puzzled, shook his head. We believed their technology was primitive, unworthy of our attention. But now, we see that we were wrong. The tension in the room was palpable. The fleet was poised for the invasion, and now it was clear they would have to deal with something much more dangerous than they expected. The alien commanders could no longer afford to dismiss humanity as a weak species. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans were preparing for the worst. The warning had been clear. The aliens were coming. They had no intention of letting Earth fall under their control. For centuries, humans had fought wars with other humans, with nature, with the world itself. But this was something entirely new. An alien threat, an invasion. Yet in the face of such a crisis, humanity's response was simple. They would fight. The humans had always been a species that adapted, that overcame, and that never backed down. This would be no different. Commander Riley, the soldier who had delivered the message to the aliens, stood in a war room, surrounded by her team. She was tall, with short, cropped hair and eyes that burned with determination. Despite the chaos unfolding, she remained calm, her voice steady as she issued orders. We can't afford to sit and wait for them to strike, Riley said. We need to take the fight to them. We'll hit them hard, strike first. Prepare our best fighters and send them to the front lines. And get ready for our next move. Those aliens won't expect what's coming next. Across the globe, humanity was rallying together. The governments, military forces, and even civilian groups had begun to organize. The planet was united in a way it had never been before. People who had once been divided by borders, languages, and ideologies were now united by a common goal: survival. At the same time, the alien fleet began to advance toward Earth. The massive ships, bristling with weapons, glided silently through space. The Zorath Empire had never faced resistance like this before. They had destroyed entire civilizations in mere hours, but they had never faced a species like humans. Zorath watched from his command center as his fleet neared Earth. He could feel the pressure mounting. The humans' ability to launch an attack, to strike back with such power, had shaken him. But he still believed the invasion would be an easy victory. Prepare the invasion force, Zorath ordered. We will annihilate them in one swift strike. But as the alien fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. A signal flared up on the ship's radar. A small human vessel, nearly invisible against the vast backdrop of space. It moved with speed and precision, weaving between the much larger alien ships. It was a human fighter jet, one of many that had been outfitted with the latest weapons, designed specifically to take down the alien invaders. The human pilot, a skilled veteran named Lieutenant Harris, was calm as he guided his ship toward the alien mothership. His hands were steady on the controls, his focus razor-sharp. He had been preparing for this moment for years. The alien fleet had no idea what kind of resistance they would face. As Harris approached the mothership, he activated the ship's cloaking device. The alien ships scanned the area, but they couldn't detect the human fighter. It was an unexpected advantage, one that the humans had been perfecting in secret. With one swift move, Harris launched a barrage of missiles, targeting the weak points of the alien ships. The explosions rocked the mothership, sending shockwaves through the fleet. The aliens scrambled, their ships retreating in disarray, but it was too late. The human resistance had already proven that they were not to be taken lightly. Back on the flagship, Zorath's eyes widened in disbelief. How? How could they have done this? Their ships... They've outsmarted us, Kral said, his voice filled with awe. They have adapted in ways we never expected. Zorath clenched his fists in frustration. They've only delayed the inevitable. Our forces are too powerful. This is only the beginning. But deep down, Zorath knew something had changed. The humans were no longer the insignificant species they had once thought them to be. They were a force to be reckoned with. And their surprising tactics had thrown the entire alien fleet off balance. Back on Earth, the humans celebrated their victory, but they knew this was only the first of many battles. The alien threat was far from over. Commander Riley stood before her team, her eyes filled with determination. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We've shown them that we won't back down. We've shown them that humanity is a force they can't ignore. And we won't stop fighting until they understand that." The humans had made their first move, and they had made it count. But the war was far from over, and the aliens would soon realize just how wrong they had been to underestimate humanity. The quiet hum of the alien fleet was shattered by chaos. Zorath, the Supreme Commander, stood rigid in the center of his command room, staring at the holographic displays. The human counterattack had not only damaged their ships, but it had also thrown the entire invasion plan into disarray. The Zorath Empire, the dominant force in the galaxy, had never been forced into retreat. Until now. "How did they do it?" Zorath muttered, his sharp eyes darting from one alien officer to the next. "How did they disable our ships so easily?" Kral, his trusted second-in-command, clenched his fists in frustration. "They've adapted, Commander. The humans, they've learned how to fight us. They knew exactly where to hit. Our shields, our engines, everything is compromised." The Zorath officers, once proud and confident, now looked shaken. They had expected the humans to panic, to bow down in the face of their overwhelming power. Instead, humanity had displayed a cunning and precision that none of them had anticipated. "We cannot let this continue," Zorath declared, his voice cold with determination. "If they continue to disrupt our fleet like this, they'll force us into a corner. We need to eliminate their resistance." Across the room, the tactical officer, an alien named Drek, shifted uneasily. "We've never faced an enemy like this. Our technology is far superior, yet we're being outsmarted by these humans," Zorath growled. "I know, but they are nothing more than a nuisance. Our weapons will crush them. Prepare the fleet for another assault." But in the depths of the Zorath flagship, another officer, one who had been silent through the entire conversation, spoke up. His voice was quiet but full of conviction. "Commander, we cannot underestimate them. This is no ordinary species. There is something unique about how they fight. We've only seen a glimpse of their strength." Zorath turned sharply toward the officer, his anger rising. "What are you suggesting, officer?" "I suggest we reconsider our tactics," the officer said. "Perhaps we need to understand them better before we strike again." Zorath's eyes narrowed. He had no time for doubts, no time for weakness. But the officer's words lingered in his mind. Something was different about this human resistance. They had done what no other species could. They had disrupted the might of the Galactic Empire. While the alien commanders debated their next move, the humans too were preparing for what was coming. They knew the aliens wouldn't give up easily. But the one thing they had learned from their brief but intense struggle was that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their will to survive. Commander Riley sat in a crowded war room, her team gathered around her. On the screen in front of her were the images of the alien fleet, massive warships gliding through space toward Earth. But now, there was a new resolve in Riley's eyes. "We've shown them that we can hit them," she said, her voice steady. "Now, we need to show them that we can do it again. And again, until they realize we won't back down." Lieutenant Harris, the pilot who had taken down the alien mothership's weak points in the first battle, stood up. "The alien fleet is bigger than anything we've seen, but we know how they move now. We know where they're vulnerable." Riley nodded. "Exactly. We don't need to fight them head-on. We need to pick them apart, just like we did before. We use their size and arrogance against them." As the humans prepared their counteroffensive, the aliens scrambled to fix their failing ships. Zorath was growing impatient. His fleet had been damaged, and it was becoming clear that the humans were more formidable than any intelligence report had suggested. It was not just about superior weapons anymore. It was about how humanity could turn the tables in the most unexpected ways. Zorath ordered the fleet to regroup. "We will attack Earth's major cities. We will wipe out their capitals, their centers of power. Once we break their spirit, they will have no choice but to surrender." The alien commanders nodded, each of them eager to make up for the failures they had just experienced. They would bring everything they had to Earth. No more holding back. Back on Earth, Riley and her team understood the new threat the aliens posed. The initial battle had only been a small victory. The real war was just beginning. The humans knew they couldn't win by force alone. The aliens' technology was far superior, but humanity's resourcefulness was their greatest strength. "We can't let them get close to the cities," Riley said, looking at the map of Earth's surface. "If they reach the ground, it will be much harder to fight them. We need to strike before they even land." The human resistance prepared their most daring attack yet. With military forces stationed around the world, the humans launched a series of surprise ambushes, using their knowledge of the terrain and alien weaknesses to their advantage. Riley's voice echoed through the communication channels, giving orders to every unit, every fighter. "Stay on the move. Keep them guessing. We're going to make them regret ever underestimating us." As the alien ships neared Earth's atmosphere, they had no idea what awaited them. The humans had already set up a series of traps, hidden in plain sight. The aliens, with all their advanced technology, had no idea that their most vulnerable points were within reach. When the battle finally erupted, it was chaotic. The humans used everything at their disposal: drones, fighter jets, advanced weaponry, and a network of satellite systems that allowed them to strike at the heart of the alien ships from miles away. The Zorath fleet fought back with all their power, but the humans were relentless. They refused to give up. For the first time, Zorath could feel the weight of his decision to invade Earth. The humans were more than just a nuisance. They were a threat he hadn't prepared for. As the dust settled after the latest battle, Zorath watched in disbelief. His forces had suffered significant losses. His mind raced. He could not allow this to continue. If humans could outsmart them, again, the consequences would be disastrous. It was clear now. The Galactic Empire had miscalculated. The humans were no longer a small, weak species. They were a force that even the mightiest empire in the galaxy couldn't crush easily. "Prepare the final assault," Zorath ordered, his voice hardening. "This time, we will not fail." But deep down, even Zorath knew the truth. The humans had proven something he wasn't ready to admit. The war was far from over, and the Zorath Empire would have to face the full strength of humanity. The alien fleet was regrouping. Zorath and his commanders watched as their warships hovered over Earth, preparing for a second full-scale assault. They had underestimated the humans, and now, with their fleet scattered and several ships crippled, the aliens were desperate to crush the resistance once and for all. But the Zorath Empire was not used to failure. They had conquered countless worlds, and Earth would be no different. They were determined to make Earth bend under their heel. But on Earth, the story was very different. Commander Riley stood in front of a map, her eyes scanning the red flashing lights that represented alien ships hovering just above Earth's atmosphere. Her team was tense but focused. The humans had already shown their resilience, their willingness to fight back, but Riley knew that the real test had just begun. The aliens were going to come at them with everything they had. This time, they had to be smarter, faster, and stronger. "We have to hit them before they hit us again," Riley said, her voice firm, carrying the weight of the situation. "We've shown them that we can disrupt their fleet, but now we need to take it a step further. We're not just defending, we're attacking." Her words cut through the room. Each soldier, each strategist, understood the gravity of what was being asked of them. They were no longer fighting for mere survival. They were fighting for their future, for their families, and for the planet they called home. In the makeshift headquarters of the human resistance, a group of military leaders gathered around a large table, their faces illuminated by the glow of their screens. Harris, the fearless pilot who had struck the alien mothership, was among them. His hands shook slightly, but it wasn't fear. He was used to battle. It was the tension of knowing that every move they made from here on out would either bring victory or defeat. "This is it," Harris said, breaking the silence. "The aliens are coming in full force. We don't have the luxury of waiting for another attack. We need to take the fight to them." Riley nodded, turning her attention to the map. A series of dots marked the locations of alien ships, spread out across the globe. Earth had never faced such a threat, but Riley knew that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology, it was in their unity. The aliens believed that their superior firepower would break the humans, but they didn't understand the one thing that had allowed humanity to survive for centuries: the human spirit. "We've got one shot at this," Riley said, her voice steady. "Everyone, from the highest ranks to the civilians, needs to be involved. This is not just a military fight. This is a fight for our survival as a species. If we fail now, there may be no Earth left to fight for." Across the globe, humans were rising to the challenge. People who had once been divided by borders, language, and politics were now standing united against a common enemy. Governments, scientists, engineers, farmers, and ordinary citizens all were playing a part in the resistance effort. In underground bunkers, the world's best minds were working to develop new strategies. On the front lines, soldiers were preparing for battle, knowing they would not be alone. The fight to defend Earth was not just about advanced technology or firepower. It was about the strength of their resolve, the power of their unity, and their refusal to be conquered. Humanity would stand together, no matter what. Hours later, the first wave of the alien assault arrived. Zorath watched with satisfaction as his ships prepared to land on Earth's surface. The humans had fought back before, but they were no match for his superior forces. He believed this would be the final blow. The invasion had begun. But as the alien ships descended toward the Earth's surface, something unexpected happened. The ground beneath them began to shake, and then, from all directions, human forces struck. It wasn't just the military this time, everyone was involved. In cities, in rural villages, and in hidden military bases, human fighters launched coordinated attacks on the aliens. Fighter jets soared into the skies, making sharp, precise movements that caught the alien ships off guard. Ground troops, armed with new weapons developed specifically to counter alien technology, ambushed the invaders. In the air, Harris led the charge, taking down alien warships with skill and precision. But what really made the difference was the humans' ability to work together. Every fighter, every soldier, every civilian was part of a larger effort to bring down the alien invaders. It was a level of coordination and unity that the aliens had never seen before. The humans weren't fighting alone. They were a force. One that couldn't be easily broken. Zorath's eyes widened as he watched the humans' rapid counterattacks. His fleet, though large, was being torn apart. They had expected to face a scattered, panicked resistance, but what they saw instead was a unified, relentless force. Each human, from the soldiers in the field to the civilians in their homes, was fighting for their survival. The aliens had no answer for that kind of unity. "What is this?" Zorath growled. "This is impossible. How are they doing this?" Kral, standing beside him, looked equally stunned. "We underestimated them, Commander. The humans. They've turned the tide. We can't keep up with their coordination. They're everywhere." On the ground, Riley led a group of soldiers through an alien stronghold, her determination unshaken. They had pushed the aliens back, But there was still work to be done. The alien invaders had made the mistake of underestimating humanity. They had thought that their firepower would be enough to break Earth's resistance, but they hadn't accounted for the strength of human will. "We're not backing down," Riley said to her team, her voice fierce. "We've shown them we can hit hard. Now let's make sure they understand that we won't stop until they're gone." The humans' success was built on something much stronger than technology. It was their refusal to give up, their ability to adapt, and their commitment to fight for their home. As the battle raged on, it became clear to the aliens that they had made a terrible mistake. Underestimating humanity was proving to be a fatal error. Zorath watched in disbelief as his fleet faltered. His once unbeatable forces were being pushed back, and he realized that even with their advanced technology, the aliens couldn't win against the combined power of human ingenuity and unity. "This isn't over," Zorath muttered. But deep down, he knew the truth. The humans had found strength in something the aliens could never replicate: their unbreakable spirit. The battle for Earth was unlike anything the aliens had ever faced. Zorath stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching his fleet struggle against the relentless human resistance. The aliens had never encountered an enemy so resilient, so unpredictable. Every attack, every strike they made, was met with an even fiercer counterattack. They had expected a quick victory, but Earth had proven to be far more dangerous than they ever imagined. Zorath's claws gripped the edge of the console. His mind raced. The humans had learned how to fight them, using every advantage they had. The terrain, their ingenuity, their will to survive. He had underestimated them, and now they were forcing him into a corner. He had always believed that the strength of the Galactic Empire would crush any resistance. Yet here he was, watching as his fleet was slowly driven back by humans who were supposed to be weak, primitive, and easily defeated. "We cannot let this continue," Zorath muttered under his breath. The alien officers around him looked to their commander for guidance. But the certainty that had once filled Zorath's eyes was now replaced with doubt. His empire had known only victory, and now, for the first time in countless years, they were being defeated by a species they considered insignificant. The thought gnawed at him. "Commander, we need a new strategy," Kral, his second-in-command, said, stepping forward. "We cannot rely on brute force alone. The humans are too clever. We need to find a way to neutralize their advantage." Zorath turned sharply to face Kral. "What do you propose?" "We have been fighting them head-on," Kral explained. "But what if we did something they're not prepared for? What if we struck where they least expect it?" Zorath raised an eyebrow. "Go on. We know the humans are spread out, across the planet. If we strike their heart, destroy the one place where they have united, where their leadership is based, then we can break their spirit," Kral said with a cold smile. "We target their capital, their command center. If we crush the heart of their resistance, the rest will fall apart." Zorath considered this for a moment. His eyes scanned the war map in front of him, showing Earth's major cities and military installations. The humans were spread thin, and their forces were stretched to their limits. A concentrated strike at their central command could cause chaos. "We move quickly," Zorath ordered. "Launch the final assault. Leave no survivors." Back on Earth, the humans were preparing for the next phase of the war. The previous victories had been hard-won, and the alien forces were regrouping for another assault. Riley, standing in a command room surrounded by her best officers, was well aware of the gravity of the situation. "Listen up," she said, her voice steady, commanding the room's attention. "We've pushed them back before, but now they're going to come at us harder than ever. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about protecting everything we've built, everything we've fought for." The room fell silent. The weight of her words hung heavily in the air. The alien fleet was stronger, and they were learning from their past mistakes. Riley knew that they couldn't continue fighting the same way. They needed to adapt. "We've been fighting individually," Riley continued. "Now, we need to fight as one. We need every man, every woman, every fighter, every civilian to stand with us. We have to pull every resource together and stop them before they reach our heart." The team nodded in agreement. They knew what was at stake. Humanity had already proven that they could survive the odds, But the time had come to end this war before the aliens could strike their most vulnerable point. As the alien fleet began to gather for its final assault, Riley ordered the humans to fall back to their strongholds and prepare for the worst. They were ready, but what the aliens didn't know was that the humans had a secret weapon: their ability to unite under pressure. Humanity's strength wasn't just in their weapons or their tactics, it was in their unbreakable spirit, the way they worked together even when the odds were impossible. The aliens launched their attack, and it was brutal. Massive warships descended on Earth's major cities, targeting military bases, communications hubs, and government centers. Zorath's forces, determined to finish what they had started, rained down destruction. The humans fought back fiercely, but the scale of the assault was overwhelming. It seemed as though the aliens might finally succeed in breaking humanity. But in the chaos, something unexpected happened. Humanity's heart, its capital, remained standing. The command center was not as vulnerable as the aliens had assumed. The humans had moved their leadership to a hidden underground base, one that was virtually invisible to alien technology. The location was known only to the highest-ranking officials, and even the aliens' advanced sensors couldn't detect it. This was humanity's greatest surprise. They had prepared for the moment when the aliens would attack with everything they had. The aliens, in their arrogance, had expected to find a weak, exposed target. Instead, they found themselves faced with a hidden fortress, one that could not be easily destroyed. Zorath's fleet was caught off guard. The human resistance, though scattered, had used their knowledge of the terrain and their enemies' tactics to create a perfect trap. The alien assault, meant to crush humanity's heart, was instead met with a surprise counterattack. Human soldiers, using their guerrilla tactics, began picking off alien warships, targeting weak points and exploiting every mistake the aliens made. "This isn't possible," Zorath roared, watching in disbelief as his forces were pushed back. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had outsmarted the Galactic Empire once again. The tide of battle had turned. The aliens, now realizing they were facing an enemy they could not predict, began to falter. Humanity had revealed its true strength, the strength that came from its ability to adapt, to surprise, and to never give up. The battle was far from over, but Zorath knew that he had made a grave mistake. Underestimating humanity had been the downfall of the Galactic Empire. The aliens had underestimated the humans' resilience, their unity, and their willingness to fight for their home. Now, the aliens would pay the price for that mistake. The once proud Galactic fleet, a symbol of unrivaled power across the galaxy, was beginning to crumble. The alien ships that had once filled the skies above Earth with fear and destruction were now scattered, their systems failing, their warships disabled by human tactics and ingenuity. Zorath, standing on the bridge of his flagship, could feel the tide of the war turning against him. His once confident demeanor had been replaced by a growing sense of dread. The humans had managed to do the impossible. They had outsmarted and outfought the Galactic Empire at every turn. Every alien victory was met with a human counterattack, and now the alien forces were scattered on the brink of collapse. The battle that was meant to be a swift conquest had turned into a war for survival. Zorath's claws dug into the control panel as he stared at the holographic display of Earth's atmosphere. Alien ships were retreating, but the human forces were relentless. They had taken advantage of the Galactic fleet's disarray and launched an offensive that the aliens couldn't counter. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were taking the fight to the heart of the invaders. "We can still win this," Zorath muttered to himself. But even he wasn't sure if he believed the words. He knew that time was running out. His fleet was losing its grip on Earth, and the humans were drawing closer to their victory with each passing moment. On Earth, Commander Riley was preparing for the final push. She had watched her people endure wave after wave of alien attacks. They had fought hard, suffered losses, and still stood strong. Riley knew that this was the moment, the time to finish what they had started, the time to end the alien threat, once and for all. "Everyone, listen up." Riley's voice echoed through the communication network, reaching all corners of Earth's resistance. "The aliens have underestimated us at every turn, and now it's our turn to strike the final blow. We know their weaknesses. We've outsmarted them, and now we're going to finish it. No more retreats. This ends now. Her words fired up the troops. The human forces, though battle-worn, were united in their determination. They had fought for their families, their homes, and their future, and they would not let the alien invaders take that from them. Lieutenant Harris, who had been at the forefront of the earlier counterattacks, sat in his fighter jet, staring out at the alien mothership looming overhead. The plan was simple but risky. They would infiltrate the mothership's defenses and target its core. If they succeeded, they would cripple the Galactic fleet's ability to fight back and force Zorath to surrender. "This is it," Harris said, to himself, adjusting the controls of his fighter. For Earth. With a roar of engines, Harris led a squadron of fighters toward the heart of the alien fleet. The aliens, now desperate and on the defensive, tried to regroup, but they were disorganized. Human forces, now acting with precision and coordination, tore through the remnants of the alien defenses. Missiles and laser blasts lit up the skies as human pilots launched attack after attack, taking down alien ships one by one. Meanwhile, on the ground, human soldiers advanced through the alien-controlled zones, sweeping away the remaining alien forces. Using advanced human-made weapons, they systematically disabled alien weapons and infrastructure, crippling the invaders' ability to continue the assault. But it was the final strike, the assault on Zorath's flagship, that would decide the outcome of the war. Harris and his team flew deep into the heart of the alien fleet, navigating through layers of alien defenses. The flight was perilous, with explosions rocking their ships and alien ships attempting to intercept them. But they pressed on, knowing that the fate of Earth hung in the balance. "We've got this, team," Harris said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Stay focused. We're taking down their mothership once and for all." As they approached Zorath's flagship, they saw its massive size and weaponry. It was the largest and most heavily protected ship in the fleet, but humanity had already proven it could overcome impossible odds. Harris gave the order, and his team opened fire on the outer defenses of the flagship. "Target their engines and weapon systems," Harris commanded. The human fighters fired with precision, targeting weak points in the alien ship's outer defenses. One by one, the alien ships guarding the flagship were destroyed, and soon they had cleared a path to the mothership itself. "We're in," Harris said as he led the charge toward the heart of the alien ship. Inside, the corridors were dark and filled with the sound of distant explosions. The humans made their way to the control room, where they would plant the charges that would bring down the Galactic Empire's greatest weapon. As the human forces set the explosives, they encountered fierce resistance. Alien soldiers, though disorganized, fought desperately to protect their flagship. But the humans were relentless. With every blast, every shot fired, the humans advanced. The final charge was set, and the countdown began. Back on Earth, Zorath watched in horror as the humans struck at the heart of his flagship. His empire was crumbling, and he knew that this would be the end. The ship began to shake as the charges went off, and the energy that had once powered the mighty Galactic fleet began to falter. "This is impossible," Zorath shouted, fury in his voice. How could they have done this?" As the flagship began to break apart, the humans inside finished their mission. They had succeeded. The core of the mothership exploded, sending a shockwave that rippled through the remaining alien ships. The remaining Galactic forces retreated in disarray, their morale shattered. Zorath, realizing that the battle was lost, ordered a full withdrawal. The once mighty fleet, which had come to Earth with the confidence of invincible conquerors, now fled in panic. Back on Earth, the human resistance celebrated their victory. The war was over. Earth was free. But for Zorath and the Galactic Empire, this was only the beginning of a long, painful retreat. They had underestimated humanity, and it had cost them everything. The human spirit, their ingenuity, and their will to fight had turned the tide of the war. The aliens had come to conquer, but they had learned a hard lesson. Humanity would never bow down. The sky above Earth had been filled with alien warships for weeks, but now silence hung in the air. The battle was over. The once mighty Galactic fleet, crippled by humanity's relentless resistance, was gone. The few remaining ships, battered and broken, retreated into the depths of space, their morale shattered. Earth had been defended, but the victory came at a cost. The war had been fierce, and many lives had been lost. Yet, in the end, humanity had triumphed. Zorath, the supreme commander of the Galactic Empire, stood alone on the bridge of his flagship. His once proud fleet had been decimated. The humans had shown the universe that their will to survive was stronger than any alien might. He stared out at the vastness of space, his mind reeling with disbelief. He had come to Earth with the expectation of conquering it, but now he was a broken leader, watching as his empire collapsed. How could this happen? Zorath whispered to himself. We were supposed to crush them. We were the superior species. He had underestimated humanity. He had underestimated their ability to adapt, their drive to protect their home, and most importantly, their unity. He thought he could break them with overwhelming force, but what he hadn't accounted for was the strength of their spirit. Zorath turned away from the view, his gaze fixed on the communication console. He knew he had failed. The war was over, and it had been a disaster for the Galactic Empire. His fleet, once the terror of the galaxy, was now nothing more than a shadow of its former self. The humans had taken Earth back, and they had shown that they would never bow to anyone, not even the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Riley stood before a gathering of military leaders and civilians in the underground command center. The room was filled with relief and exhaustion, but also a deep sense of pride. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and had emerged victorious. But Riley knew that the victory was not just about military strength. It was about something deeper. We did it, Riley said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. We fought back, not because we had the most powerful weapons or the most advanced technology. We fought because we had each other. We fought because we are human, and we will never stop fighting for what's ours. Her words were met with applause. There was no doubt in anyone's mind that this was a turning point in human history. They had faced the impossible, and had not only survived but had triumphed. The aliens had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest, but what they found instead was a species that would never be broken, a species that would fight to the last breath to protect their world. Riley took a deep breath and looked around at the faces of the people in the room. Their lives had been changed forever by this war, but their spirit remained unshaken. The sacrifices they had made would never be forgotten, and the lessons they had learned would guide them for generations to come. Now, she continued, it's time to send a message to the stars, a message to anyone who might think they can do what the Galactic Empire tried. Earth is not to be conquered. We are not a species to be underestimated. The room grew quiet as Riley's words settled in. The humans had won, but their work wasn't over. They had to make sure that the galaxy knew what had happened here. They had to make sure that every species in the stars understood that humanity would never back down, no matter the odds. As Riley stood before the group, she felt a surge of determination. This was just the beginning. Earth had fought back, and now it was time for the humans to stand tall in the galaxy. The message would be broadcast to every corner of space, and it would be heard loud and clear. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. In space, far beyond the reach of Earth's atmosphere, the last remnants of the Galactic fleet drifted into the void. The survivors of the once mighty empire were scattered, their spirits broken. Zorath, now a fugitive, watched from his damaged flagship as the communication system flickered to life. He had no words left. He had failed his people, and he had failed the empire. But as the Galactic ships retreated, a transmission began to broadcast across the stars. The humans had done what no one thought was possible. They had defeated an empire. And now, their message was clear. Attention all civilizations across the galaxy. Riley's voice came through the transmission, firm and resolute. This is a message from Earth. We are humans. We are a species that will never bow down to anyone. We will fight to protect our home, and we will stand united against any who threaten us. The Galactic Empire came to conquer, and they failed. Let this be a warning to any who think they can do the same. We will never be conquered. This is our world, and we will defend it. The transmission spread like wildfire across the galaxy, reaching distant star systems and alien civilizations. The message was clear, and it was undeniable. Humanity had proven its strength, its resilience, and its will to survive. And in that moment, the galaxy understood something crucial. Earth was no longer a backwater planet. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with, and they would not be ignored. As Zorath's flagship limped away, the final echoes of the human message reverberated through the cosmos. The once mighty Galactic Empire had learned a hard lesson. Underestimating humanity was a fatal mistake. The galaxy now knew that humanity was no longer a species to be dismissed. They were survivors. They were warriors, and they would not be defeated. Back on Earth, Riley watched as the final remnants of the alien fleet disappeared into the distance. The war was over. The humans had won. But now, it was time to rebuild. It was time to chart a new course for humanity, one where they would stand tall and proud in the galaxy, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The message had been sent, and the stars would never forget the strength of humanity.